And good evening, barflies, lounge lizards, and welcome to the Atomic Snack Bar. And tonight we'll be discussing 5 retro sci-fi movies set on or around Christmas. It's not really a top list or a ranking, so other than the number 1 spot, these aren't in any real order. I just didn't know what else to call it. And number 5 on the list is I Come in Peace, aka Dark Angel from 1990. Directed by Craig R. Baxley, I Come in Peace is a sci-fi buddy cop action film. And it tells the story of a less than by-the-book cop who is doing anything he can to take out a gang of drug dealers. And in great 80s movie buddy cop film fashion, our police detective is saddled with a by-the-book FBI agent. Soon the two discover that the gang isn't the only game in town. An intergalactic alien drug dealer is on the scene, harvesting human endorphins in order to create a fancy-pants space drug and taking out suckers with alien CD technology. A good alien, who just happens to be an intergalactic police officer, comes to stop him. Because if the romance novel Alien isn't stopped, the Earth could fall prey to hordes of intergalactic drug dealers in awesome alien fashion and hairdos. As to the film's inclusion on the list, it takes place at Christmas time. The first scene even features a Christmas song, and though it's not a major plot point, it's clearly Christmas. Craig R. Baxley was not only a director, having directed Storm of the Century and Action Jackson, but he was also a stuntman and actor. He was a stunt coordinator for Predator and appeared in multiple episodes of Kolchak the Night Stalker, most notably, obviously, as the android Mr. Ring from the episode of the same name. The film stars one of the most underrated of the 80s and 90s action stars, Dolph Lundgren. Lundgren is a highly educated Swedish actor and martial artist who initially wanted to be a rock musician. He was even the captain of a Swedish karate team and won several championships. But Lundgren did a whole lot of cool films, including Showdown at Little Tokyo, Rocky IV, and he played an awesome bad guy in Universal Soldier. Then we have Brian Benben as our by-the-book FBI agent. Benben is probably best known for the HBO comedy series Dream On. Next up we have Matthias Hughes as our alien drug dealer. Hughes is a German action star and according to the dictionary, the action movie equivalent of Fabio. I remember when this guy hit the scene. He was the talk of the town among my friends. And he appeared in Big Top Pee-wee, Star Trek VI, and Bounty Tracker, which is an underrated little action film starring Lorenzo Lamas, when he had his long hair, so you know it's worth watching. And finally, because this section is already way too long, I Come in Peace features appearances by Michael J. Pollard, Sherman Bub Howard, and another favorite of mine, Al Leong of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Savage Beach, and Big Trouble in Little China. I Come in Peace was originally to be called Dark Angel, but the distributor changed the title, not wanting it to be confused with the several other Dark Angels. And I say good on them. I Come in Peace is a way better title in my sleazy tiki opinion. But the film was released as Dark Angel in other parts of the world. Lundgren took the role because it actually allowed him to act and offered some clever dialogue. And number 4 on the list is Brazil from 1985. Directed by Terry Gilliam of Monty Python, Time Bandits, and Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas fame, Brazil is a quirky sci-fi film with elements of film noir. And it tells the story of Sam, a lowly bureaucrat and big Silverhawks fan.
Wings of silver, birds of steel, Silverhawks.
He lives in a stylish yet dystopian world with an over-reliance on poorly functioning machines and extreme bureaucratic red tape. And no, I'm not going to discuss the satire and the statement the film makes, because once again, Snack Bar's not that deep. Our lead begins having extremely cool-looking dreams about a well-dressed mystery woman. And soon his mundane world gets turned upside down due to an insect falling into a teleprinter. He then discovers that the mystery woman is indeed real and finds himself at odds with the government. And of course, we have a shoe hat, because, well, it's a shoe hat. But Christmas is mentioned several times throughout the film. The first scene even features Christmas ornaments on a TV display. Now this is a film with lots of interesting people in the cast, so I'm just going to name a few, but Brazil stars Jonathan Pryce as our daydreaming bureaucrat. Pryce is a Welsh TV and film actor with appearances in the Pirates of the Caribbean films, Jumpin' Jack Flash, and maybe most notably, Something Wicked This Way Comes. Pryce considers Brazil to be one of the 2 main highlights of his movie career. Then we have Kim Grist as our mystery woman, for she certainly warrants a mention, having appeared in Chud and Throw Mama from the Train. The film also features appearances by Robert De Niro, Bob Hoskins, Ian Holm, and Michael Palin, so it's a stacked cast. Though titled Brazil, the film actually has nothing to do with Brazil. It's actually named after a recurring piece of music heard throughout the movie, which is apparently well known in England, and I will not even attempt to pronounce the title. This was not the original intention though. Brazil had several working titles including The Ministry, 1984 and a half, How I Learned to Live with the System So Far, and several others. And I gotta say, 1984 and a half, that's awesome. They should have gone with that. And funnily, Gilliam had said that 1984 was an inspiration for the film, even though he hadn't read it. This is a movie with a great retro future kind of style to it. The dream sequences, though short, are particularly groovy fantastico. Just look at those guys. But I'll be honest with you fine folks here. For a mostly light-hearted and quirky film, this one has an extremely dark ending. So I really wouldn't recommend it unless you're okay with that sort of thing. Or you could always just turn the movie off at about the 2 hours and 7 minute mark. And number 3 on the list is The Brain from 1988. Directed by Ed Hunt, The Brain is a Canadian sci-fi creature feature, and it tells the story of a ne'er-do-well teenager who's not a big fan of properly working plumbing. It's an odd case because this kid is kind of a prick for no reason. His parents and teachers really don't seem all that bad. And said precocity eventually ends the teen in a psychological research institute run by a self-help TV personality. But things aren't what they seem, which should have been pretty obvious. It's just common sense never to go anywhere run by David Gale. But the institute is actually experimenting on its patients using a giant monster brain, as folks often do around the holidays. But our troublemaking lead is mostly immune to the creature's powers and finds himself on the wrong end of a spinal cord. This is probably the least Christmassy of the films on the list, but you do hear a moment of a Christmas song and see some decorations here and there. The film stars Tom Bresnahan as our alien brain resilient teen. Bresnahan did quite a bit of TV, including appearances on Beauty and the Beast and Baywatch. And there's your Baywatch reference for the episode. Then we have the aforementioned David Gale as our self-help TV host. Gale is probably best known for the Reanimator films, but he was also in Sinjanor. You thought I was going to say the Guyver again, didn't you? But really, the true star of the film is the mysterious alien brain. This is just an incredible work of practical effects. Just look at all the moving parts in the face. Not to mention that it's huge and just keeps getting bigger. Look at him eat that person. Seriously, that's awesome. And if you don't agree, you've disgraced your household for generations to come. It should also be noted that the brain was a big Poison fan. Many worked on the effects of the film, but it appears that special effects artist Daniel White was the main figure behind it all. And I'm sure you are all wondering where the brain creature from The Brain ranks on the Randy Brain scale. Well, he's no brain from planet Eris, that's for sure. And on that, we should take a break.
I don't want to grow up. I'm a Toys R Us kid.
You just said the magic words, and look what you did. And look what Toys R Us has for the universe this season. Introducing Monstroid, one of Mattel's masters of the universe. When he gets wound up, watch out. Also new from Mattel, get a $2 rebate on the disc-hurling Blaster Hawk. Wow. And a big $6 rebate on Eternia playset with motorized tram, elevator, and a real moat.
It's the world's biggest Toys R Us. Go!
And we're back with number 2 on the list, and that's Santa Claus Conquers the Martians from 1964. Directed by Nicholas Webster, who is most famous for this very film, and based on the Hemingway story of the same name, Santa Claus Conquers the Martians tells the story of a pair of Martian parents who are worried that their children are watching too much Earth TV. After seeking advice from a Martian wise man, it's decided the children need a little fun in their lives. So a group of Martians head to Earth to kidnap Santa Claus. But not all agree with this course of action. One Martian in particular believes that Santa is a corrupting influence and must be stopped. Permanently. And thus the wacky robot and polar bear holiday fun begins. This one is actually a kids movie, with producer Paul Jacobson calling it a Yuletide science fiction fantasy. And being a kids movie, I think it gets judged a bit harshly and has kind of an unfair reputation. It's not like they were trying to make a serious sci-fi film here. It's just a bit of holiday fun for the young'uns. The film stars mostly unknowns with very little sci-fi or genre film work on their resumes. Leonard Hicks, who plays our main Martian Kimar, only has 4 credits including this one. But Bill McCutcheon, who plays the comic relief of the film, played Uncle Wally on Sesame Street. Then we have Vincent Beck as the villain of the piece. Beck did quite a bit of TV with appearances on Mr. Ed and the Monkees, but most importantly, he played Megazord on the Lost in Space episode Hunter's Moon. That was always one of my favorites as a lad. And finally, we have Tor, who was clearly a real working robot. There's just no way you can fake that. Producer Paul Jacobson had the idea for the film because he felt that other than Disney, there just weren't enough movies made for children. Production began in Long Island in the summer of '64 and took about 2 weeks to complete. The film was then released at Christmas of that same year and supposedly did very well. A month before that, the Kinda theme song, Hooray for Santa Claus by Milton DeLugg and the Little Eskimos, was released as a single. And in 1966, Santa Claus Conquers the Martians got a one-shot comic book and read-along adaptation by Dale Comics. And lastly, I wanted to mention that Santa Claus Conquers the Martians was the first ever film appearance of Mrs. Claus. And number 1 on the list is Trancers from 1985. Directed by B-movie master craftsman Charles Band, Trancers is a sci-fi action film and easily my favorite on the list. And it tells the story of Jack Death, a hard-boiled detective from the 23rd century. His archenemy, who uses his psychic abilities to turn people into his mindless servants known as Trancers, travels back in time to the 1980s. Our gruff but lovable lead follows suit, taking over the body of a journalist relative who happens to look just like him. Because if Dark Shadows has taught us anything, it's that we have relatives in the distant past that look exactly like us. And that's Dan Curtis approved science right there. But once in the 1980s, Death teams up with a punk rock girl in order to hunt his nemesis down. And this one as well takes place at Christmas, with several scenes directly referencing the holiday. Death even battles a Trancer Santa at one point. I'm sure director Charles Band is no stranger to you fine folks out there in snack bar land, but he is the visionary behind Empire Pictures and Full Moon Entertainment. Not to mention he did production work on many of my all-time favorite movies, including The Dungeon Master, Eliminators, and Troll. Trancers stars a true film treasure, a man equally as good in action roles as he is in comedy, Tim Thomerson. Thomerson also appeared in Metal Storm, Rhinestone, and the Dollman series. He began as a stand-up comic, and his first truly notable role was on the sci-fi comedy series Quark from 1977. Next up, we have a mostly unknown actress named Helen Hunt as our punk rock girl. Hunt would appear in some of the Trancers sequels, but nothing else of note. Then as the villain of the piece, we have Michael Stefani. This appears to be his only film role, but he did some TV, including 3 episodes of Bonanza. And finally, I wanted to mention Art LaFleur as part of the Future cast. LaFleur was a character actor who worked on films such as Cobra and the Blob remake. Trancers came about in part due to Charles Band's admiration of Humphrey Bogart and classic detective movies, and it shows. There's definitely a neo-noir-esque quality to the film, and it even received a black and white streaming release in 2025. Trancers would go on to get 5 sequels, as well as a short film, all of which, with the exception of the 6th film, would star Tim Thomerson. And interestingly, comic book great Peter David wrote parts 4 and 5. There would also be several comic book series based on the franchise, none of which were written by Peter David though, unfortunately. And that's all the time we have for this weekend, but before I go, I wanted to ask Bob what he thought of the episode.
Now what you done to him?
Well, to be fair, it is right there in the snack bar terms of service that could happen. Please like, comment, subscribe, watch the skies, and stay atomic.
'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the ship, not a sensor was flashing, not even a blip. When there was a huge crash, to the bridge I then ran, and thereupon St. Nicholas with joystick in hand. With Atari's Miss Pac-Man he gobbled and scored, then on to Jungle Hunt he played till he roared. From out of his sack he pulled dozens of games, all the great ones from Atari, our favorite names. Before I could thank him, he beamed out of sight. With a Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night.